Okay, good evening. This is the March 2021 general meeting of the Arlington NAACP. We are going to get started here in just a second. I want to welcome everyone tonight. We will start with a short business meeting from 6:30 until we'll stop before 7 o'clock so we can reset for our candidate forum that will feature candidates for Arlington Mayor. So we are going to open up with prayer from our Health Committee Chairperson, Lisa Staples-Weary.
Good evening, everyone. Let us go to the throne. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to come before your throne. God, we ask you to watch over everyone on this call and their individual families. God, we ask you to bless these families and people represented here tonight and those that are coming on. God, let us be mindful of the work that the NAACP and let us be govern ourselves accordingly to take care of the business of the NAACP. God, we ask you to watch over this meeting tonight. These and other blessings we ask in the Father's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so I will, we've got just a couple of committee reports. I don't want to be too late starting the forum. I don't want to be late starting the forum. So I will toss it to our education chairperson, Tia Cole, for education committee report.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tia Cole, as Madam President informed you. So this month, we talked with Mansfield ISD, the superintendent. We meet with that leadership team every 3 months, and we are working with them as they roll out their diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. They have done a massive audit and overhaul, and they are working with us to make sure that they are implementing it correctly. So we are pleased with that relationship as it is developing. We are working on getting back into Arlington ISD and nurturing the same sort of a relationship. Besides that, we're just responding to community concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And back to our health committee chairperson, Lisa Staples-Weary, for a health committee update.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Staples-Weary. I'm an RN and I chair the health committee. Co-chair is Dr. Barbara Odom Wesley. We focus on health issues in the African American and the underserved population. And we do workshops and presentations as such. Right now, we are very busy with COVID-19. Anyone that's on the call that has not had your vaccine, please consider getting your vaccine. It is open now in Tarrant County that you do not have to be in group 1A or 1B to receive a vaccine. It is open for everyone now to sign up. If you haven't already signed up, please do so or encourage someone to do so. On Saturday, the 27th of March from 10 to 12, we will partner with Devin Allen, County Commissioner's Office, where we will be enrolling people who don't have access to computers or need help and assistance in enrolling so that they can receive their vaccine. We are soliciting for volunteers for this initiative. We'll need about 10 to 12 volunteers. So the address will be in the chat. It will be at Greater Community Missionary Baptist Church, 126 East Park Row in Arlington. And it's on Saturday, the 27th of March from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Please come out. Thank you. Lisa, you're still on mute.
I'm off now. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to kind of go back to, I want to address a couple of things. Tia mentioned getting back in partnership with AISD. And so we do have a good relationship with AISD, but lately it's just been kind of as things come up. So I did chat with Michael Hill, the assistant superintendent, last week to discuss a couple of issues. And so we will begin working with them again on MWBE participation. That is minority and women-owned business enterprise participation. As you'll recall, a couple years ago, the citizens, passed a bond program almost to the tune of $1 billion. And so what we are doing is requesting the data to look at the numbers to see how AISD is spending that money, and particularly if they are spending that money with African American business enterprises, as well as Hispanic and other minority businesses. So we want to make sure to hold them accountable. AISD has been one of the entities, one of few school districts in this area that refuses to implement an MWBE policy. They will tell you that they have a program, but they need a policy in our estimation. So they do have a new CFO, and Mr. Hill is going to make arrangements for us, myself and our economic development chair, to meet with the new CFO who oversees procurement and in the bond program at AISD. In addition, wanted to talk to AISD about polling places. So, of course, you know that the upcoming election is May 1st. We received an email from the city that indicated that 3 AISD schools or facilities will not be available for use for the May 1st election. And so, of course, we don't want that to happen. So Mr. Hill and I had a discussion about how we can make sure that Berry Elementary, Gunn Junior High, and Shackelford remain as polling locations for the May 1st election. So we will be discussing that with his facilities director in the coming weeks. When you take away those historical polling locations, to us, that amounts to voter suppression. At issue, though, is I've mentioned the bond package. They are doing renovations at those locations. So what we talked about was, the elections on a Saturday. Surely there are other places around the campuses to park, and there are other places. So if you have the election in the gym, which Gunn Junior High typically does, can you move it to the cafeteria, especially for a Saturday election? He is not opposed to that. And so we'll continue to talk about that to work that out. There are a number of other issues that we deal with daily. I won't hash them all out here. I just would like to thank our criminal justice team, our legal redress committee, and all of our other committees and committee chairs for all the work that they do daily. And to that end, we always need help. So if you would like to join the Arlington NAACP, I think we put the membership information in the chat. We talked about this at our we have a 3-phase board strategic planning process going on. And we talked about how we always neglect to mention membership. So it is my role tonight to mention membership. If you are not a member, you can simply click on the link in the chat and membership is $30 a year. That's all, $30 a year. I probably spend $30 at Starbucks in 2 days. So feel free to join us. And I see some committee chairs are putting their email information in the chat because they want you to work on your committee. So that is all I have. Let's see if our vice president, there are too many names to look at. Vice President Twain Braxton or our second vice president, Billy Wilson. Do you guys have anything to add?
No, Madam President, not at this time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I will toss it over to our political action chairperson, Mr. Damon Gardner. And I see he just put in the chat, if you're interested in joining our very busy political action committee, you can email Mr. Gardner. We have a series of candidate forums coming up because there are so many candidates running for all of these council seats and school board seats and the congressional district 6 seat. We've got to spread out our forums. So he will probably talk about that at the end of tonight, but pay attention to our social media and our constant contact because we're going to be having forums for the next month and a half. And we want you to be informed and educated about the folks who want to serve you in elected positions and to be able to hold them accountable. Okay, so Mr. Gardner, it's on you. You don't look like you're on mute, but I don't see your, can't hear you.
While you're trying to get him, Madam President, this is Dwayne, and I have nothing.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Glad to see you. I think Madam Assistant Secretary said you were on earlier, but you disappeared. So. Now I can keep talking, but then I won't be able to stop.
Okay, I think I'm in now. Can you hear me?
Y'all are lucky.
Look at the guy.
Once. All right, thank you again, Madam President. And we want to welcome our candidates and guests to our mayoral candidate forum for the city of Arlington. And I want to go ahead and start and introduce our moderator for this evening will be Dr. Jason Shelton. Dr. Shelton is the Associate Professor of Sociology and Director of the Center for African American Studies at the Universities of Texas at Arlington. He is also a member of the Unity Council, and he will be conducting our forum throughout the evening to the night. So Dr. Shelton, if you're on, go ahead and take it away.
All righty, thanks Damon for the introduction. Can you all hear me this evening? Just do a thumbs up if you can. All right, very good. Hey, it is great. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a few new faces, and it's always great to be here. It's an honor to do this, to be associated with our local and impressive chapter of NAACP, y'all. Hey, you all know how this generally goes. We're gonna allow every one of our candidates to do a 5-minute opening statement. I also have a list of questions that we have already developed that each candidate will have 2 minutes to reply to. And then we will also, you know how a debate would work. Sometimes a candidate might mention another candidate. I will give you some time to respond if that happens. But we'll only try to cut that down to 1 minute. Also, for all the folks that are here tonight participating, glad that you are here. We want to get you involved from the beginning. So if you would like to begin to type questions in the chat, please begin to do so as soon as we get started. My good fraternity brother, Maurice Washington, and I are going to monitor the chat, and he will figure out which questions might be the ones that rise to the top in terms of those that are most applicable in the moment. So please, we don't want this just to be myself and you all as candidates talking. We want to get the community involved as well in terms of your questions. So please begin to type those in the chat. And with that, we're going to move in alphabetical order, at least here at the very beginning. So the candidates that I know were going to be here tonight are Donnie Anthony, Kelly Burke, Michael Glaspie, Cirilio Ocampo Jr., Jim Ross, Marvin Sutton, Jerry Warden, and Dwayne Washington. And so that I just read your names in alphabetical order, and that is the way we will proceed with your 5-minute opening statements. I'm going to be watching the time, so I'll be a little bit graceful, but I want to let us all make sure that we have a productive conversation. And when we really get to the Q&A part, when I begin to ask questions, I'm going to ask each of you all to use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. That way it'll give us a little bit of order here to how this would go. And so you will find that in the reaction, isn't it in the reaction box? I can't see it right now. I see when I click reaction, I see a clap and a thumbs up, but I don't see the raise hand. You all, I see Jim Ross is doing a thumbs up. All right, folks, so we can just, oh, here it is. The raise hand is under participants. If you click on participants, you'll see a blue hand there, and I will monitor that to get you all in the mix. Is everybody on the same page with me so far in terms of our candidates? If you are, shake your heads and I can see. All righty, I see you folks doing that. All right, we're gonna lead off with Donnie Alexander. You have 5 minutes to introduce yourself and talk about why you would be a great candidate for mayor of our great city of Arlington, Texas.
Hey guys, I'm Donnie Anthony, and I'm running for you guys. I'm running for the people. I've looked at how the government has operated over the years, and it hasn't been going in the direction that I thought it was supposed to go. We have too much government overreach, and we need more limited government. I'm also running because I was out being an activist, knocking on doors, helping other candidates, and helping other people win, and trying to get the right people in office. And now it's time, after co-leading 2 different groups, it's time that I run for office and stop just complaining and stop just knocking on doors and get out there and work for you guys. Been out talking to multiple people. A lot of people who I've talked to are concerned with corruption and broken promises out here in Arlington, Texas. They really want leadership who will actually be there to represent them. And that's what I'll be doing. I'm also a working class person. I'm a salesperson. I don't have any big attachments to anything besides the fact that I'm just running because I want to do what's right for the people of Arlington, Texas.
Thank you for that opening, Donnie. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name.
Oh, no, you're fine.
All good. Next up is Mr. Kelly Burke. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, can you hear me? I got headphones in, so I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's everybody doing? Good. Again, my name is Kelly Burke. Been an Arlington resident for almost 20 years. I like to say 20 years just to be safe or under. Originally from Fort Worth, Texas, and from the east side of Fort Worth. I'm a husband, a father, a business owner, Miss First Christian Academy Daycare, and I own KRB Fitness Gym, where I'm sitting at right now to hold this meeting. The reason I'm running is because I definitely believe that it's a time and point where we need leaders that are going to fight for the people. We need leaders that are not going to be concerned just with themselves and the agenda they're trying to push, but that they're going to be fighting for the agenda of the average everyday man. And the kind of man that I represent is who I'm fighting for. So I believe that the time is now. I believe that this is definitely a season that's fruitful, and it's a God thing. And I believe that God is calling his people to step into positions that are in the political realm and stop being afraid to fight for justice in these realms. And so that's exactly why I'm here. And that's exactly what I plan to do. I think Arlington's a beautiful city. I love it. I fell in love with it when I moved here, and I am willing to sacrifice my time, my energies, my efforts, and put my fruits and my talents to the plow and, lead this city in the capacity that I believe that I can.
Thank you very much for that opening, sir. Mr. Michael Glaspie, you are next, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. My name is Michael Glaspie. First of all, I want to thank NAACP for having this forum, giving us an opportunity to share with you our perspectives on what's going on, and also give you an opportunity to get to know who we are and who you might want to vote for. My wife and I moved here almost 40 years ago with our family, and it has been a great experience living here in Arlington. We had a chance to raise our family, had a chance to work in this area, had a chance to get to know a number of people. In fact, over time, because we were so in love with and engaged in this community, I ended up getting involved in a number of things. In particular, in the early 90s, I got involved with the school board school district, should I say, and looking at what their facilities needs would be over the next 10 years. And it really gave me a chance to get a closer look at how we were addressing the needs of our children, and then defining additional things that we need to do to assure that our children got the best possible education. Toward the end of that, after getting to know a number of people from across the city and the school district, I ended up running for school board and was fortunate enough to be on the school board for a number of years, during a period in which we were one of the fastest growing school districts in the state, if not the nation. In fact, we grew almost 50% during the time that I was on the school board. So we were doing a lot in the way of assuring we had proper facilities, as well as implementing programs that challenged our young people so they will be ready to step out into the tomorrow. So then towards the end of that, and getting to know people, even more people from around the city, I ended up running for council position. And eventually I was elected to the council. I've gotten involved in a number of aspects of our city. I've been on hospital boards. I've been on the Tarrant County Appraisal District boards. I've been on a number of boards for the city even before I was elected to the council. So I've gotten a chance to develop a great number of relationships so that not only could I focus on the things necessary to help run our city, but I'm also very engaged and sensitive to the needs of our community across the board. So accordingly, I felt it was a great time to now run for mayor, and I look forward to getting your support so that we can continue to make Arlington an even better place to live. Thank you.
Appreciate that opening, Pastor Glaspie, sir. Did Cirillo Ocampo attend tonight's meeting? I know he was one person we hadn't heard from for sure. Do we know? Damon, did he come? No. All right. No problem, sir. The next speaker then will be Mr. Jim Ross, sir. 5 minutes are yours.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton, and thank you to the Arlington NAACP for inviting me to participate in this forum tonight. I truly appreciate all the opportunities to be heard and talk about our visions for Arlington and where we want to go. When I look at what I want in a leader in town, there are three things that stand out to me. The first thing is I want a leader that has integrity. The second thing is, in a city like this, I want a leader that knows how to bring jobs to the community, good paying jobs that our families can live on and our kids can grow with. And thirdly, I want a safe community. I'm a U.S. Marine and an Arlington police officer who was a cop here in town from 1983 to 1996. I was a part of Arlington's first full-time SWAT team. I developed Arlington's own police academy, and I spent 7 years undercover buying drugs for a living on the streets of this city. I did what most young adults did back in the day was I didn't go directly into college. I went to the Marines and I became a police officer, and I squeezed 4 years of college into 12. I didn't graduate with my undergrad degree until I was 35 years old. At 36, I took my retirement from the city and I went to law school, and I paid my own way through law school. For 10 years after law school, I prosecuted environmental exposure cases with a lady named Erin Brockovich all over the country. About 11 or 12 years ago, I went out on my own and I developed my own law firm. It was just me. I grew my firm to having about 40 employees now with 12 attorneys. We've been voted twice the best company to work for in Tarrant County, under 50 people. I'm a Veteran-Owned Business of the Year award recipient from the Small Business Administration. A few years ago, I opened a fine dining restaurant here on Lamar called the Mercury Chop House. Between my two existing businesses, I employ close to 100 people in this city with jobs that they can make good livings at. I've got a lot of life experiences. I've been in this community for almost 40 years, and I've learned some things throughout my life. One of the things I learned as a Marine is the difference between right and wrong, and the fact that we're stronger together than we are individually. I've learned as a police officer how to keep a community safe. I've learned as an attorney and as a businessman how to create jobs and grow companies, successful companies. I've learned as a father and a grandfather that the decisions we make today will impact our next generation. And I've learned as a philanthropist that it's not about our accomplishments, it's about giving back and lifting up. I've been giving back for 40 years. I didn't start when this campaign started. I'm on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the Economic Recovery Task Force. I have participated on committees for the Special Olympics, Salvation Army, you name it. We've been involved in it. With Jeff Williams having to leave office now with term limits, we need to keep this city on the right path and getting us to the next level. And that's why I'm running for mayor of Arlington.
Thank you very much for that opening. Mr. Ross, Mr. Marvin Sutton, 5 minutes are yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shelton, and thank you, NAACP. Full disclosure, I am a current member of NAACP. I co-chair the Political Action Committee. I can assure you I was not involved in the process of this forum. So with that being disclosed, my name is Marvin Sutton. I was born and raised in Southwest Georgia, raised by a single mom. I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I can tell you, education is the natural equalizer. Matter of fact, I'm the first in my family to graduate from high school, the first in my family graduates from college. I understand when a kid goes to school hungry, they can't focus. To give you an idea about that, I was a low B, high C student in high school. Just recently, a few years back, I graduated from Tarrant County College, 4.0 graduate with a degree in accounting. Also graduated from UTA, magna cum laude with a degree in accounting. I've passed the CPA exam. The opportunity that exists here today, the opportunity that we all have as candidates to run for mayor, didn't just happen. It came through term limits. And the reason I say that, I was part of the term limit movement. In 2018, there was only one African-American on the council, only one. Today, there are 2 Hispanics and there are 3 African-Americans on the council. I was part of that movement, the long-term movement to make sure that we have a fair process when we run for council. And here's the beauty of it. I've run for city council, District 3, 5 times. I lost 5 times over a 12-year period. But you know what got me through those losses? The Bible says that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And I truly believe that, because on the 6th try, I was elected to Arlington City Council. So it's a difficult process. My goal is to bring good public policies. This is not about what you can do as an individual. This is about policies that you create and implement that has a positive effect on people's lives. Just reimagine public safety. Imagine what we can do with neighborhood services. My goal is to create smart economic policies and growth, to have a community enhanced public safety, to have sustainable infrastructure. But we'll get more to those policies, but I want you to know that as an individual, I currently serve on the council. We're currently serving in a pandemic. We're currently serving through the snowstorm. I have been on the front edge of implementing those policies that has a positive impact in our economy. So I do understand that we have to do things a little bit different. We've got to focus on jobs that are basically supporting our economy, but also that will stand the test of time when we do have a downturn in our economy, when we do have a pandemic. We've got to look at those technology jobs, those medical research jobs. We've got to bring this to our economy, because what I will tell you is wealth makes a difference in the city. We've got to create training opportunity for our people. And so we can bring all our communities up, not leave some behind, but we got to bring all up. In order to do that, you've got to have access and opportunity to economic development, to grants, to contracts, and to employment. Once we get that formula together, we bring everybody up. And that's my goal, is to improve the quality of life of all our citizens. So join me today, listen thoroughly to the policies that I would like to implement. But the most important thing is Marvin Sutton will listen to you, will advocate for you. I'm in this to advocate for the ordinary citizens who work hard every day, who pays their taxes, who use very little of our services. Those are the people I'm advocating for, but not just those people, our seniors, our young folks, our college graduates. And I want you to know I'm fair, I'm open-minded, I look at data, and I listen. And so please join us as a group, mayor candidates, and hear what we have to say, and then make an informed decision.
Thank you very much for that opening statement, Mr. Sutton. Did Jerry Warden come, Damon? Is Jerry Warden here this evening? I don't see that name, so I think we'll just keep it moving. That means our last introductory remarks will come from Mr. Dwayne Washington. Sir, the 5 minutes are yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shelton. I want to say thank you to the Arlington chapter of the NAACP as well. Thank you to all the other candidates that are here. I'm looking forward to hearing some phenomenal ideas from all of you, and I think tonight's going to be a great night. My background is pretty diverse, and it actually includes the NAACP. I actually served as the CIO for the national NAACP in Baltimore under Kwesi Mfume and with Julian Bond. But for the most part, my work has been with the people, helping communities, organizations, and children around the world in about 9 countries, soon to be 10 countries, with things like the Gentleman's Society, things like our ministry, things like putting programs inside of prisons to be able to turn youth around even while they're locked up, so that when they return back to their communities, they become healthy, productive members of society. Because of the background that I have in working with the people that I've worked with over the decades, it's given me a very unique look at how not only cities are run, but how countries are run as well. And so whenever you start doing business, or you start dealing with people around the world, and you start dealing with third world countries, and you look back at your city and you see your city begin to start taking the same types of things, doing the same types of things that some third world countries are doing, then you've got to stop and take a look and say, wait a minute, we don't want to go down that slippery slope. So as far as why am I running, there's some very specific reasons that I'm running, is to make sure that we don't go that route. There's some things that I think that definitely need to change. The seeds have been sown, and if we don't pluck those seeds up, then we're going to have an issue some 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Some people mentioned education. Education is extremely important. I thank Mr. Sutton for bringing that up, because if you just look at it on one level, you'll say, well, some of our schools, or the majority of our schools may be failing. The children in it are at risk. But as Mr. Sutton has said, it's difficult to concentrate when you can't eat, when you can't count on a place to be able to stay. So schools aren't struggling, families are struggling. And while we do a phenomenal job at building buildings, we have some world-class facilities here in Arlington. We got to make sure that we don't leave our families behind. Arlington is the dream city. And so my goal is to make sure that we can all live the dream together. We have a situation where a lot of people that are here are not able to even pay their bills on a regular basis, or some have grown children living with them because they can't afford to be able to move out. We're all about economic development, but I'm about people development. If I bring a law office next to your house, it doesn't make a difference. It's not going to make you a lawyer, right? So outside of just bringing jobs, we definitely can talk about that all day, but we've got to have qualified people, people who are in position to be able to take advantage of those. We've got to have great affordable housing so the people who are living with their mom and dad right now at 23 and 24 years old can afford to move out and be in their own place. Those kids that are coming out of UTA that are brilliant, we've got to make sure that they have a place to stay. And what's happening is that we're doing the opposite. Our debt is going through the roof, and it's beginning to, you're starting to see the seeds of squeezing. In the past couple of years, I've seen so many lose their home due to the increase in taxes and that type of thing. And so while we're looking at one end of the spectrum, we've got to make sure that we don't lose the other side of the spectrum. So I'm running for that, to make sure that we all live the dream together. And once again, because of the background that I have, when it comes to crime, when it comes to economic development, even when it comes to building schools, it starts with building families. And if we can build families well, build people well, people build good families build good cities, right? And good cities are seen throughout the world. So that's the reason I'm running.
Wonderful. Appreciate that opening from everyone here so far this evening. I'm going to ask our first question that to begin the discussion. Remember, it would make it easier and orderly for all of us tonight if you all would raise your hand. Remember, that feature is under the participants section. And you'll have 2 minutes to reply to this question. It'd be great if all of you would reply to this first question. Let me also say that I understand that not everybody wants to answer every question. And of course, that is your right to not do so. But it'd be great if you weigh in on most of the questions here this evening. So the first question to get things started with your 2 minutes is, if you were elected mayor of our great city, what would be your top 3 priorities as mayor? What would be your top 3 priorities as mayor? Again, if you all can use the raise your hand feature, that would make things a lot easier on me. Jim Ross, I see you have already raised your hand, sir. I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. I'm going to blame the fact that I'm a trial lawyer and always ready to talk on me being quick on raising my hand. I think one of our biggest priorities right now is the fact that we have to continue to come out of this horrible pandemic and do it in a safe way, but keeping our businesses open. We have to protect our community, both from the health dangers of this pandemic and from the economic dangers of this pandemic. The second priority is Arlington has done really well on the entertainment district, but we have a reputation of being difficult to deal with when it comes to jobs and creating businesses here. And I want to focus on small business that bring real jobs to this city. And the third priority is we are a huge city that has huge city problems when it comes to safety. I want to make sure that our first responders, our police and fire, are properly trained, equipped, and staffed to deal with the types of dangerous situations and safety issues that are in this community. So those would be my first 3 priorities. And thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to thank you as well. And I want to ask each of the candidates, after you raise your hand and you speak, if you will hit the raise your hand button again, it will lower your hand. And that allows me to see who's raised, whose hand is up and who is not. Next hand that I see here is Kelly Burke. Sir, the floor is yours for 2 minutes. Can you unmute, sir? I see you trying to. You want me to come back to you? I can go. Let me go to.
Hold up.
Okay, there you go, sir.
Yeah, man, I disappeared there for a second. I'm like, what's going on? Okay, so some of my top issues. The first issue that I would like to tackle is taxes. I'm sure that everyone on here agrees that we definitely want to focus on taxes, property taxes as well, and see what we can do to either cap the property tax or lower the property tax. Second on my agenda would be businesses, entrepreneurship. I believe that we should put our arms around the entrepreneurs as well as some of the ones who have closed down because of the COVID crisis. Some of the ones who have closed down because of the stadium being built. We drive down Collins and we see some of the vacant businesses that were once thriving in this area. I would like to reach out to them and see what we can do to put our arms around, try to get these people back in business, because these people were the backbone of our economy here. Third would be education. I've heard so many of us agree that we are struggling in education. Mansfield has been outperforming us in education for a long time. And so I would like to work hand in hand with the school boards and those who are at the top in education to see what we need to do to at least raise our minimum standards in education, the same as Mansfield. And last would be to strengthen and help develop the police and fire department so that we can have a strong police department and a strong fire department. Not trying to say that they aren't strong now, but we want them to be stronger so that our citizens are protected, our houses are protected, and our kids are protected in the schools as well. So those are some of my top priorities.
Thank you very much, sir. If you would lower your hand, I'd appreciate it. Next, I see here, and I'm just going in order. I just want you all to know that I'm not calling in any particular way, but I see Mr. Michael Glaspie is next, sir. The floor is yours for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. I think when you stop to look at it, there are similar perspectives on the things that are critical. For example, we have to get this COVID under control. We have to put ourselves in a position where everyone, we can't just be content with what appears to be on the surface that everyone is being taken care of, but we need to make sure we go out into our communities, meet people where they are, so to ensure everyone is vaccinated. And we're in a position where we can get this thing completely out of the way, which leads to the whole thing of economic development. We have to be able to provide jobs for people. We need to work very closely, for example, with University of Texas at Arlington. There are so many opportunities that they could help put us in a position where, for example, training, someone may need training in the way of putting together business plans. We need to make sure that we have all our business leaders involved so that when it comes to funding, one of the big challenges, particularly underrepresented firms run into, is not having sufficient funds to actually implement plans and programs to take advantage of opportunities that they have, when in reality they're equipped to do it. However, they don't have the funding to do it. So we need to make sure we pull all those together. Then we need to, of course, make sure that we are providing the absolute best value possible to our citizens. Our citizens invest their money in us, the taxes that are paid, and we need to assure that we are doing the absolute best we can with those funds so that we can keep taxes low, but deliver great services at the same time. That includes making sure that our police are well equipped, our firefighters are well equipped, and my personal philosophy is that should be a continuum. We should continue to get better. And we should constantly look at ourselves to see exactly where we are and what other steps we might take to deliver even better services to our citizens. And finally, education was mentioned. Our most important asset, our most precious asset, are our children. And we need to assure that we as a community are working hand in hand to do everything we can to make our kids ready for the jobs of tomorrow, so that not only can they will be able to make living for themselves, but hopefully they will continue to live here in Arlington so we can continue to be the American Dream City. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Glassby. Next speaker I'm going to call on is Mr. Dwayne Washington.
Thank you very much. Very simple. The very first thing is not sexy, it's not exciting, but is extremely important is looking at our debt and restructuring that, being able to put us on a plan to be a debt-free city. There are debt-free cities here in America. It won't happen in 3 years, but we can start going down that route as well as looking at tax relief for our citizens. Once again, not a sexy thing, but people don't realize how much that impacts the city and how much it impacts the citizens. Over 50% of the tax burden that Arlington has falls on the citizens, which means that as the debt goes up, which it has increased by a factor of 3, that falls upon the citizens. And you see everything else going up as far as their payment to the city goes up as well. Well, people only have so much money. And so when it comes to squeezing people, that's what happens. We used to be an extremely fiscally responsible city. We had a stadium that was paid off 10 years early. Then we had people that took that, instead of applying that to areas to help the city, decided to double down and build another stadium and get in more debt. And as they began to pay that down, and it was slated that stadium would be paid off about 10 years early. And once again, instead of taking and doing the responsible thing, what do? Let's build another stadium. Well, that's falling on the backs of the citizens. There comes a time when you have to pay the piper. So we want to take a look at that very first thing. Look at the debt, look at our tax situation. How do we restructure that? How do we offer some incentives to be able to relieve some of our citizens, especially those homeowners that are hurting? There's some low-hanging fruit that is so easy to do. When we look at taking care of the city, some of the things you want to take care of are your most vulnerable citizens, both your old and your young. Our seniors, as we're dealing with some of the directors in programs like Meals on Wheels, we only have one center right now in Arlington for our Meals on Wheels program. And so as we talk to those directors that are over those areas, they would love to deliver to more. All we have to do is say yes. They provide everything else. So being able to just open up to other areas so that our citizens can get wellness checks, so they can get the food that they need and the whole nine. It doesn't cost the city anything. We're already partnering with those people. We just got to say, hey, come on to these different areas. So the second one will be handling our seniors. The third one is, like I said, our young people. I've dealt with tens of thousands of youth, tens of thousands, from colleges to crack houses and all places in between. So I've got more background in that than we can shake a stick at. And so we will begin to partner with those different youth organizations and different mentoring organizations that can help children that are at risk. Because at the end of the day, once we get a police officer involved, once we get a judicial system involved, the crime has already been committed. The problem has already happened. I can tell you for a fact, it is much easier to prevent someone from having the mentality to commit a crime than it is to turn around someone while they're in prison. And it's a lot less expensive, a lot less expensive. So what we can do is start partnering with organizations and programs to be able to come into areas where we know these children are at risk. And once again, it's not something that costs a lot. It might not cost the city a dime other than time, but we can begin to partner with these individuals and make sure that we're targeting people that would commit the crime to begin with. So effectively, that would lower the crime. That's also going to help our school districts and our schools get better. I don't know if you, Dr. Shelton, you can attest to this at UTA. You've seen that over the years, the people who are entering into entry-level college are less and less qualified to be there. And that's because the system is doing less and less of a job to be able to prepare them. However, while we can blame a little bit on the system, they're coming from areas and homes that are not preparing them to begin. So if we can partner with them to have better homes, better support for those homes, better support for those schools, and then we have people that are actually able to go to college and finish and go straight through, then that lowers our crime rate. That increases our tax base, because instead of you being arrested, you become a healthy, productive, tax-paying individual. So those are the three things. We look at debt relief, debt and tax relief. We look at helping our senior citizens, and we look at helping our youth.
All righty, sir. I appreciate that. Mr. Marvin Sutton, the time is yours now, sir.
Thank you so very much. Arlington sits in the 4th largest consolidated metropolitan statistical area. We're the heartbeat of the Metroplex. With that comes a huge responsibility and opportunity for our city. I believe in smart economic growth. What that means is we have to bring in and solicit, working with UTA and Texas Department of Economic Development, to bring in those high-tech research companies that will stand the test of time. We're going to create opportunities for training to bring people on board to increase that wealth. We have an opportunity in Arlington, an opportunity zone that's located just on the north side of 20, where we can bring in those developers who would get tax incentive to create those jobs. What I would also urge is, and what we're doing now is, when the city offers an incentive called a 380, which is a state statute that allows city to provide incentives for economic development, we would hold those companies accountable and encourage them to use local firms, to hire local folks, so we can bring all our communities up to those levels. But one thing we hadn't been able to do so successful is we hadn't been able to reverse the ratio of commercial to residential. And we're trying to figure that out. But here's what I'd suggest is that we're putting our budget to do a study on Highway 360. That study will look at the opportunity to bring in the commercial property so we can take advantage of a property tax. The goal is to reverse that ratio and to have more tax borne by the commercial side than the residential side. Another thing I want to do is come up with a concept called community enhanced public safety. About 15 years ago, we had a robust group of crime watch coordinators. They are almost non-existent today. We had a robust group of code enforcers. They are almost non-existent today. We have to empower people to take on public safety. And finally, we need to sustain our environment, sustainable infrastructure. The trash that gets picked up every day, there's a possibility that we won't have the staffing to do it. We're going to have to convert to automated systems in order to do it, to sustain our waste services. But here's the most important thing. If we build affordable houses and we don't train and build the income, we're still not there yet. We've got to have training centers in order to train our citizens and get them up to a livable wage. What I will say is my brothers and sisters coming out of the justice system, and I applaud the Black Regional Contractors Association. What they've done is so unique is they take people coming out of the system, train them in partnership with Tarrant County and a local college to give them skills for construction and hire them, give them a livable wage so they can do the basic things that we take for granted. And so my goal is to make sure we have that economic engine, make sure we train our folks, make sure we provide them with a livable wage so they can have the necessities that we all take for granted. And at the end of the day, my goal is to improve the quality of life of all our citizens.
Thank you very much for that, for your answer there, Mr. Sutton. Ms. Anthony, you have the last 2 minutes to answer your question about your top priorities for the city.
Thank you. First thing, good news, we're opening up tomorrow, 100% capacity. Business will be able to operate, start bringing in revenue. I also never want us to ever have to go through that ever again. I feel like the government overreached and told businesses, we don't trust you to operate safely. Also, the residents, they didn't trust the people as well to be able to go out and be safe. And then if you're sick, stay at home. So I never want that ever to happen again, so we don't have to get in this situation for our economy. Second, I would like to work on deregulations and promoting home-based businesses. For example, if you want to have a hair salon, you can start from home instead of having to restructure your home in order to be able to have that business. You can start from your home, you're already paying a mortgage or rent there. You can start from there instead of having to rent a chair or pay for a commercial location. You'll be more likely to succeed if it's easier for you to do that financially and have more control over that. Next, I would also like to provide our first responders with the resources they need in order to operate in the city that keeps on growing. And then lastly, we've been separated from each other from COVID for so long. We need some more community as a city, us coming together and being a family. So I want to do, have a city Christmas party. We all get to hang out and see each other and be around humans again. And those are my top 3 priorities.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Maurice,
Anthony.
I know that there have been a good number of questions in the chat already, sir. And if, do you want to take a look at that? And if any that pop out to you at this time, if you want to present one to our candidate, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Dr. Shelton.
Yes, sir, my man.
That's good. Let's start with this question from Mr. Carl Warren. This has to do with one of the favorite topics, I believe, is transportation. This question is for each candidate, what is your definition of public transportation, and do you believe Arlington needs public transportation at this time?
Wonderful. So what is your definition of public transportation, and do you believe that Arlington needs public transportation at this time? The first name that I see here is Mr. Dwayne Washington, sir. 2 minutes, please.
So real quick, we all know that Arlington is the largest city in the country without quote unquote public transportation. So if we talk about what public transportation means to me is transportation that is in partnership with the city. Maybe not completely sponsored by, but in partnership with the city. Now, with that being said, let me go a little bit further in explaining what I think public transportation needs to look like and what it doesn't need to look like in Arlington. I don't think that we need something like an advanced train system like when I lived in New York. I don't think that we need anything such as a bus system like in Fort Worth or in Dallas. The reason why is that it's very expensive to keep up. I'm extremely familiar with the cost associated with that, done a lot of cost analysis with my good friend that runs all of the buses out at DFW Airport. So when you look at the ridership associated with that particular form of transportation, it's going lower. So there's no sense in us investing in something that is becoming less and less. However, we do need a way for our citizens to get around, whether they're college-age kids going from UTA or whether there are seniors needing to get around and not depend on their children and grandchildren. Right now, we do have a system called VIA. I think that system is as close to what I have in my head. I think that the perfect solution is more of what we'll call a point-to-point system, more like what we see with the Uber and a Lyft. A lot of times people are afraid that a bus system will bring in nefarious activity because you may have someone who is homeless that might ride it all day. But when we look at a point-to-point system, think about an Uber or a Lyft. That's not going to happen. You have to have somewhere to go. VIA is the closest thing that we have to it. I think that we're moving in the right direction with VIA. There are people who sit on both sides of VIA. For those that say I'm totally against it, I would offer you to do one thing, at least take one ride on it. I've yet to speak to a citizen that says I hate it that is actually taking a ride on it. So definitely keep an open mind and take a ride on it. There are some it does lack a few things. It's not completely there, but it is going in the right direction. So the answer is yes. I think we do need a way to be able to move people around. I think that in the future, we'll see something a little bit different with autonomous cars and cars that will be able to utilize the full potential of a vehicle. We'll talk about that at a later date. But right now, yes, we do need some way to be able to move people around effectively so that those people who don't have a vehicle or don't have a way to move around, the most vulnerable people of our society, still have a way to move from one area to the other.
All righty, thank you, sir. Mr. Marvin Sutton, sir.
Thank you so much. So my definition of public transportation is connectability, and it allows the public to move around. However, the city does employ Arlington VIA, which the Federal Transit Authority underwrites part of it through a grant. The city uses general fund, and the user pays a fee. Now it is cost effective. It's cheaper than Uber or Lyft. Sometimes you may have to walk a block to catch it, but if you're disabled, it comes to your home. That take care of the internal transportation problem, but it still doesn't address the commuter traffic that goes on at 360 and Interstate 20 and 30. We will still need some form of public transportation to get our citizens to these major urban employment centers in Dallas and Fort Worth. Until we're able to bring these major urban centers into Arlington, which would create a smart economic development and jobs, we have to commute our citizens out. We have no way. Here's what these systems will do once we get it on board and stabilize a public transportation system, comprehensive, that get the commuters to their place of work. It eliminates it improves the air quality. It actually helps us get our first responders to incidents in a safe and efficient manner without them having to zigzag around traffic. It improves and has less maintenance on our roads today. So we are still trying to figure it out. We have a Council of Government, Regional Transportation Council, that's tasked with helping us solve these solutions. And that part of it is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And we get federal funding as well as state funding to help solve those solutions. We have a council member that is assigned to that council or assigned to that committee. And I'm hoping that we will be able to leverage our relationships in order to find meaningful answers of getting our citizens through their place of work.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker will be Mr. Kelly Burke.
Yes, thank you. And it's a great question that's been posed. Of course, we know it's a very hot topic, it's always posed. So I think right now, currently, I think VIA is a good option. I plan on actually riding it tomorrow, Dwayne, but need to put my car in the shop. So I'm dropping it off and I'm riding VIA back. So I want to test it out myself, do a video as well. But I think also, from what I understand, now they are actually dropping you off at the front door of your location and picking you back up, at the front door, which I think is a great deal. As well as I just saw that it looks like the average ride is anywhere from $3 to $5 a year, pretty much anywhere in Arlington, Texas. So I think it's pretty cost effective. I think with the right amount of hands on deck from the city council and whoever becomes the mayor, I think it can only get more sophisticated. So I think right now VIA is only going in the right direction. I think we're on the right path with it. I think that if we just piggyback off of what we already have and build off of that, then I think we'll be perfect with VIA. That's what I see right now. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ms. Anthony, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you. I believe the VIA is already going in a great direction. It's a good transportation for the city within the city. And I'm not looking at trying to have people be transferred from one metroplex to another. I have worked in Dallas, Texas before. I have seen what the system can bring to a city. And also with VIA, I think that once, because like my friend, her mother lives in a different country. When she comes here, they have a job, obligations. They can't take her everywhere. So she needs something where she can go and explore Arlington and have fun here. And she can use VIA to do that.
Very good. Thank you very much. If Kelly and Donnie can lower your hands for me, I'd greatly appreciate that. Next speaker will be Mr. Jim Ross.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. There's two main issues in dealing with public transportation in a community our size. The first issue is ensuring that we have transportation to properly get our elderly, our disabled, and those who are poverty-stricken to their choice of destination. The second issue is being able to transport people to and from business centers in and out of this city or our entertainment district. The difficult thing with public transportation in a city like us is the cost effectiveness of it. First of all, Arlington has been a leader in smart transportation not a follower. We are an award-winning city where Mayor Williams has been invited to China even to speak on transportation issues. We have been innovative in how we're looking at our transportation problems. Our voters have voted down on numerous occasions busing here. And one of the main reasons is it's not cost effective. If we want to bring in DART or we want to bring in the T, they want money for us to do that. And it's not cost effective for us to bring those buses onto our streets. The other thing that's not cost effective is the rail that we see going back and forth between Dallas and Fort Worth. The on-ground rail trains coming in and out of this area, because it's extraordinarily costly to build and structure those. So I would want to continue Arlington's innovative thinking on how do we maximize our smart transportation. One of the things we've just did is opened up VIA to the entire city. But it's not just about VIA. We still have Arlington Handy Tran available to us that also transports people around. But we have to make sure that those people who are poverty ridden have an opportunity to be able to afford public transportation. So just like the Equity Council recommended in their report, we need to be able to look at, are there some type of price cuts that we can make available to those people in need of that financial help so that they can get to and from their jobs? I'd want to explore other transportation options in and out of this city. And one of those things may be some type of above ground rail system that will not interfere with our traffic that's on the ground, will not disrupt all of the streets that we have here in Arlington, and is much less expensive in developing that so that we can get people to and from the business centers here. So I appreciate the other candidates talking about VIA, but there's far more to public transportation than just utilizing VIA. And Arlington is the trend setter in that. Thank you, sir.
Very good. So our last speaker here for 2 minutes will be Mr. Michael Glassman.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. Thank you for the question. This has been a question that's been a challenge for a while. First of all, public transportation, to me, public transportation means that we are and have defined an efficient and effective way of moving our citizens around our city so that we can begin to minimize the congestion. One of the things was mentioned, the pollution, as well as being able to minimize the impact on the roads and the infrastructure that we have in place. I was on the council when we commissioned the Transportation Advisory Committee, which spent a year taking a close look at where we are, what facilities we have, and what looked like an approach to addressing the challenge of implementing a public transportation system. One of the first things they alluded to was the implementation of VIA. And one of the critical things that they unfolded to us is that we need to focus on taking advantage of new technologies that were coming out and look at the uniqueness of Arlington and how we might be able to implement those so that we truly could have a system that moved people around, but at the same time, was something that was cost effective. We need to be in a position where people are able to capitalize on it. And then there are two aspects to it. One, we of course have to be concerned about how we move our citizens around here in the Arlington area, but as well, we need to be conscious of that we are part of a dynamic region. I think Mr. Sutton mentioned the fact that we are the fourth largest economic engine in the country, our region, and we need to be able to not only move around in Arlington, but have the opportunity to easily move in and out of other metropolitan areas so that our citizens are able to get to jobs, they're able to go to places that they might enjoy entertaining themselves, so that we all can partake of a great, great quality of life.
Thank you very much for that answer, Pastor Glassby. Mr. Washington, I saw you raise your hand, but for the sake of time, sir, we've got some other topics that we want to address. If you get a chance, everyone will have a closing statement and you can sort of address whatever that issue is at that time, sir. But for right now, I want to hand the floor over to our chapter president, Ms. Elisa Simmons. She wants to recognize a few people that are in the room with us tonight. And by the way, I love our turnout here. We got 61 people so far, and I've seen it higher than that over the course of this evening. This is a great dialogue, and thank you all and your families and friends for coming. Elisa, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Yes, Dr. Shelton, thank you. I just wanted to do what we always do and take a moment to recognize those elected officials that are joining us tonight. Earlier, I saw Constable Robert McGinty. I think he's still here. School Board Trustee Keisha Mays, School Board Trustee Aaron Reich. Also saw, let me look at my list because it's been a while, so I have to scroll. Deborah, tell me who I'm missing from our list.
We have Councilmember Sutton here on this.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to re-mention Councilmember Sutton. Oh, Justice of the Peace, Kenneth Sanders is the other one that is on our list. So I think we have hit them all. So we appreciate Constable McGinty, Judge Sanders, and trustees Aaron Reich and Keisha Mays for being on the Zoom tonight. That's it.
Thank you for that, Elisa. And so now I want to turn the tide for a minute. And of course, this is the NAACP. So of course, we got to deal with race and ethnic relations in our town. And I had the distinct honor and privilege of chairing the Arlington Unity Council, which was our city's inaugural racial and equity task force that was established in light of the racial tensions in our country related to COVID-19 and George Floyd and other matters related to tensions between African Americans and law enforcement over the last few years, and particularly last summer. And a number of folks on this call served on that committee with me, and it was an honor to do so with you all. And our committee, recently, we were charged by the mayor and city council to develop a racial equity project that looked at disparities and ways for addressing those issues. I'm curious to know if the candidates for mayor have seen the Unity Council's final project, A, and then B, most importantly, we had a set of recommendations, 59 recommendations that were handed to the mayor and city council in addressing issues of racial and ethnic disparities in our town. And if you are elected mayor of our city, will you honor the racial and ethnic disparities recommendations that the Unity Council has fulfilled our charge in placing in the hands of the mayor and city council? I see Councilman Marvin Sutton has raised his hand first, sir. The 2 minutes are yours. Then Pastor Glaspie and Mr. Washington, Ms. Anthony, Mr. Ross, all y'all weighing in now, and Kelly Burke. So let's start off with Mr. Marvin Sutton, sir. The 2 minutes are yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the leadership you provided on the Unity Council. We really appreciate the report moving forward. There's some things that the city can do, and there's some things the city can partner and get done. I think it adds value to our city. It brings unity to our city. I will recommend that the council or the next mayor, whoever that is, implement those as public policies. I think it's way overdue, the fact that these issues still exist. To give you a prime example, in some of the data that I've been privy to on the council, contracts out of the city are dismal when it comes to African Americans. And the perception is that African Americans are not welcome to do business in Arlington. That has to change, and it will change based on those recommendations. We have to step up and provide every decision we make and look through every decision we make from that equity lens. How can we improve our community? And what I mean by that is the city has an economic development plan to bring in businesses. every time we offer incentive to bring in those business, we need to make sure that those businesses are hiring local folks, but also making sure they have a plan for diversity, 30% plan for diversity for minority business to participate. And if we have to, we can take a look at other opportunities that would bring that equity and build that equity that we're looking for. This has gone far too long in our city. It wasn't based on George Floyd, but what we're trying to do is build equity, bring people together. We got to pull everyone up and have communities that are being able or that are able to achieve that American dream that we all hope and long for. So I would recommend and I would implement as the next mayor those recommendations.
Thank you very much, sir. The next speaker will be Mr. Michael Glassby, whom I had the pleasure of serving with on the Unity Council. The 2 minutes are yours, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. It was an honor to be a part of the Unity Council. I noticed that Pastor Kennedy Jones and Pastor Ronnie Goins are also on here, and they were integral part of the committee that we had, and wanted to thank them as well. There were 5 areas that we looked into. We looked at health and wellness, the group that I was a part of. We looked into policing, we looked into education, we looked into housing, and then we looked at economically the inequities that are in our city. And each one of the committees did a great job of going through and looking at what issues were inhibiting us from being in a position where everyone is able to partake fully in each one of these areas, and then put together a very solid list of concerns and recommendations to address those concerns that have been put forth to the council. As mayor, I would assure that we focus on going through each one of those, doing what we can to quickly get them in place and ultimately do all of them. And then also set up some sort of accountability situation so that we can let the community know the progress that we're making. If there turns out to be inhibitors to us getting to a particular area, explain what those inhibitors are and how we plan on getting around them so that we can implement all of these. And by the way, as much work as the Unity Council did, and as much as we covered, to me, we only established a foundation. There's still much more work that needs to be done. We need to stay focused on whatever the issues are that inhibit us from being able to walk hand in hand down the road so that we can all be successful. We should be taking care of those. And as I said, I would assure that we stay focused on that. And one of the things I would like to see very quickly is for the city staff to take those recommendations and then detail the tasks necessary so we can accomplish those. So it will be that much easier for our city to see where we are, where we're going, and when and how we're going to get there. Thank you.
Appreciate your answer, Mr. Glassby. The floor is yours, Mr. Washington, sir.
So I first want to start with commending the city to put that together. While I was not aware of the individual things that came as the final report, I was watching the things that were coming through that were being discussed. And there were some wonderful things for what gets measured, gets managed. That's great. I think that there's one spot that we definitely want to begin to implement along with that. So to answer your question really quickly, because I have not read all 59, I can't tell you that I'm going to implement every single one of them. I can't tell you that they're even possible to implement. But as I look through the different areas, there's a blaring area that is important to people like me. I have a 16-year-old son, I have a 14-year-old son, and I have a store at the end of my street. It's probably a 50-second walk. And my wife is still scared to let my kids walk down the street because people may see them as a threat. If I can control what you see and what you hear, to some degree, I can control how you think. And so one of the issues that we have, and this is a broader issue than just right here in Arlington, is a perception issue. I think that there's 2 things that we're able to begin to impact. One is very specific, is we have the #1 rated Armatron station right here in Arlington. And it is a quote unquote hip hop station. being able to partner with that station to once again partner with, not tell what to do, but to partner with, so that the perception that comes across those airways is a lot different than what it is now. The other day I sat and watched the news. I usually don't watch the news. I was in a public arena, public place, and the sound was down. And I was sitting watching, and I watched for 36 minutes. And every single individual that they had come up that had committed a crime was a Black male. Every single one. Now, here's the thing. I was volunteer of the year in prisons here in Texas. I can tell you, the majority of prisoners are not Black, first off. Second off, the majority of people who commit crimes are not Black. In that string, they actually had, there was an individual that had committed a crime who was a KKK member, but they did not show his picture. The only picture they showed for 36 minutes, Black males. Well, what does that show you? When you see a Black male walking down the street, if you've assimilated that with angry, if you've associated that with a criminal, if you've done all of those things, you've got to say, well, where did that come from? You know, if I ask us all right now to say, hey, think of an ex-con in your mind, most of us are going to think of a Black male, and half of us are Black males, and most ex-cons are not Black men. So when I say, when I can control what you see and what you hear, to some degree, I can control what you think. It's beginning to impact the perception, because that perception is what's getting our boys killed. It is that perception when someone, when a kid is walking down, that guy's a threat. It's that perception that's happening. Whether someone's calling 911, whether that's, we were meeting with some police officers, helping out another campaign. I was a driver for one of our campaigns, Miss Ruby Faye. Told I'll be the driver for the day for you. So we went and met with the police about a year ago. And we were inside meeting with the police. And this was not too long after the George Floyd thing. And it was funny because they mentioned how this could never happen here. And Ruby said, Dwayne, tell them what just happened to you outside in the parking lot. So we pulled up. I'm in my car, dressed nice. The whole front was kind of blocked off because it was coned off because of COVID. And so I pulled up to an officer outside. I lit my window down and asked him how to get in.
Mr. Washington, I appreciate the story, but I do want to make sure that everybody gets a chance here. We want to have closings and some other questions, sir. So I want to ask you to sort of round it up. I think we get your point, but I want to give you a little bit more time, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
When I lit my window down, he went for his gun. It's a perception issue. And so we need to do some things to implement, whether it's policies, procedures, or partnerships, to be able to help with that perception, so our sons can walk down the street and feel safe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate that answer. Miss Anthony, to restate the question again, the Arlington Unity Council was a racial equity task force that had recommendations for the city. We were charged by the city and by the mayor. If you were elected mayor, would you honor our Unity Council's recommendations?
I have not seen the Unity Council's recommendations. But as mayor of Arlington, Texas, I would represent everyone equally in our communities. I have heard a lot of great success stories on this call today, and I think a lot of it has come from self-accountability. And I think that that will be great for our community, have leaders like you guys out here, like us, who are successful because of your accountability of us being successful. But I have not seen that, but I will take a look at it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jim Ross, your points about the Unity Council recommendation, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. First of all, I'd say that if you're running for mayor of Arlington, Texas, and you haven't reviewed the Equity Council's report, shame on you, because you need to read what this group of men and women did for the last 8 months in debating, in discussing, in dissecting the very important issues of diversity and inclusion in this city. So if you haven't read it, shame on you. I'd like to thank those who participated in the Equity Council and the report that was generated, because as soon as I started reading the report, it became immediately apparent the tremendous work and effort to be totally inclusive in everything. And it demonstrates what we can accomplish when we include all of our ethnicities, all of our genders, or both of our genders, our age differences. When we are inclusive with one another, it shows and demonstrates what we can accomplish. So to answer the question, we need to implement this thing yesterday. The recommendations, the 59 recommendations in the 132 pages that it was laid out in are phenomenal. And we need to do, as city leaders, everything in our power to get this thing implemented and start taking care of our minority citizens here in Arlington, Texas. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time, sir. Mr. Burke, you've got the final 2 minutes on this issue. And then Brother Washington, I'm going to come to you for the next question, sir.
All right, well, thank you. And how you doing, Pastor Goins? Good to see you, sir. So first, let me say, I have not read the whole proposal to the likings of Jim Ross. So, but what I can say is, I do believe that Black people deserve a seat at the table. And I think that that's what I'm gathering is that we as Black people are fighting for a seat at the table. And I believe that our voices should be heard. I believe that every man should be treated equally as a man, the other standing on 2 feet. And it sounds like that's what you have been fighting for here. So I fully back that. I'm proud to be Black. I love being Black. I love my Black race. I love my Black people. I love what we stand for. I love what we're about. I love how we have overcame and continue to overcome. And I fully support any movement that is about unity and bringing people together. So although I have not fully read it, I will dig into it. But if it stands for exactly what y'all say it stands for, and that's bringing the unity of Black people and creating an even playing field for all men, I'm all for that.
Appreciate your answer there, sir. Mr. Washington, I'm going to you, sir, for your opinion about the next relevant question to ask, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. So one of the questions here that we have tonight, this has to do with the recent pandemic as well as the energy or power outage. The question is, how did each of you help a citizen or the citizens of Arlington during this time?
Maurice, thank you for that question. And I like your last name, by the way. I think it's the greatest last name on the face of the planet.
No doubt.
How do we help specifically? So we relocated children from freezing homes to homes with heat. We brought plenty of water and food door to door for those people that needed it. Basically, I mean, I pastor a church, so and I run the youth gentlemen's society. So people know that we offer assistance and help. So when someone needs something, whether their power's out, even to our own city councilwoman Ruby Faye, we brought her firewood for her fireplace. So we did pretty much anything that was needed. So it was open to anybody. Some people just needed food. Some people needed water. Some people needed to have a safe place to go. Some people needed us to find a hotel for them, and we did. Other people just needed us to pay their hotel bill because they had lost their job and the power was out and just needed to get paid for it. So we did. I did all of those.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Anthony, I see your name next.
Thank you. We got about 49 to 50 boxes of HelloFresh, got them in a big old truck, drove them to Arlington Mission and donated them to there. So before we left, four people already had food. So that's what we did. We donated food to the Arlington Mission, HelloFresh.
Wonderful. Thank everyone for your contributions. Mr. Washington, Ms. Anthony, thank you for what you've done to improve the lives of folk in our city. Next speaker I see here is Mr. Ross, then Mr. Glaspie, and then Mr. Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Mission Arlington has always been close to my heart, and Miss Tilly is one of the most God-fearing, wonderful people on the face of the earth. I helped put together a group of my employees and friends, and we went to Sam's and loaded up from Sam's blankets, food, all kinds of stuff, and delivered it to Mission Arlington. In addition to that, I helped my parents who were without power, and I had to go pick them up and bring them back up to my house and take care of them. And I think it's safe to say, after meeting all of the other candidates here, that we all spread a lot of prayers around for people.
Yes, sir. I definitely agree with that. I do. I think, Kelly, did I miss you? Your name? I think I might have missed you. Okay. Because I announced everybody that order first, what I'll do is give you the first question, the first answer on the next question, if that's all right, sir. I'm sorry about that. I got lost in the names I saw there. So let me continue with the flow that I had just said, but I'll give you the first take on the next question. All righty, sir. The next person was going to be Pastor Glaspie and then Mr. Sutton.
Thank you again for that question, Dr. Shelton. When you take under consideration how devastatingly we were hit by that, it took everyone off guard and was really a big challenge. Personally, what I did was help with my church. We provided water, we provided food, we provided funding to help people get through these difficult times. When something like that hits, you really don't know what you didn't expect it, so you don't know how necessarily to prepare yourself, but you want to make sure you reach out and do all you can to make a difference and make life as easy as possible for those who are being challenged. So what we did, we provided water, we provided food, we provided funding for people who needed to get groceries and what have you, or whatever supplies they might have needed. We did all we could to help our community.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Sutton, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. So that was a stressful time for our entire city, but actually our state in particular. And so knowing that the weather was forecasted to plummet, we had an opportunity to step up and help a lot of our citizens move past this and endure this. But you know, when this occurred right before we got to about 2 degrees, I got a phone call, or actually a message from one of the HOAs that said that gas had been turned off. And Monday morning, I'm inquiring as to why it was turned off and what was the reason. And it appeared that one of the gas line had been compromised and they had to build an above ground pipeline to supply gas. Well, the very next day, I'm on a conference call with Atmos Energy to figure out why they have not turned the gas on to areas that had electrical power, but they were waiting for the entire subdivision, which was split by Collins, to come online. And so I conveyed to the director's operations, we can't wait. We need power now. And I would urge you and encourage you to get the power back on. And at 7 o'clock that night, they worked till 3 in the morning to get power back on. But in the meantime, I posted my number on Facebook because I want people to be able to reach out to someone because they weren't getting the necessary answers from Encore. And I spent at least 2 nights up at 2 in the morning texting people saying, hey, your transformers failed or your fuse is blown, to make sure they knew what the problem was, to make sure they knew that the work was not assigned and when it would be assigned. But what's most important to me is the fact that a young lady called me crying. And she had got my number off Facebook. And she said, Mr. Sutton, my apartment flooded. We have no power. I don't know what to do. And I have a 16-month-old baby. And I was on my way to Congressman Wright's funeral at the time. And I told her, it's going to be okay. Go find a hotel and I'll meet you there and I will pay. And I enlisted the help of a church to help me with it. But for 2 days I paid so she wouldn't have to worry about her 16-month-old baby or having water or being kept warm. I think we as elected officials, we as candidates have to do more. The Bible says to whom much is given, much is required. And that day, I think the entire city stood up and shined in the face of adversity. And I congratulate all the candidates who went out of their way to provide shelter, food, water. And I think it's important that we, in this storm, brought us closer together. And out of adversities, we are able to unite. And that's so important for our community as we move forward.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Burke, I'm going to give you that last word. I'm sorry again, sir, and I'll give you the first word on the next question.
Yes, sir. First of all, hats off and kudos to everyone stepping up during this, tragic week that we had. I don't think this is the kind of question that we answer to get accolades. I don't think anybody on this call is trying to do that. But what we did do is we opened up our daycare as a stay-in. So our daycare is Miss Burke's Christian Academy on Matlock. We post that on social media, and people copied it and pasted it and reposted it. And we allowed women to come with children up until 6 p.m. in the daytime. And then after 6 p.m., we allowed men and families to come and stay the night. So, we just opened up, for whoever wanted to come. And, I think it was a small token of appreciation for the great people of this city. And again, I think everybody on this call feels the same way. We just step up, like heroes do, and, put our arms around the people of this great city. And, we all band together. So I think we all did a great job of stepping up during that time. Thank you.
I definitely get the feeling that you all did a great job. And I know other people on this call did their part as well. I know I did. And so I think that the idea that we came together to help people around us was a great sign of all of us and in the broader sense of community. We're nearing the end of our evening. It would be great to get a couple more questions in. So what I want to do is shoot for 2 more questions. I'm going to ask Brother Maurice to present 1 more question. Then I have 1 final question, and then everybody else will have an opportunity to close out. The one change I want to make, though, is to ask you, just give you 1 minute to answer these 2 questions. All right, we'll do it. So let's try to move as quickly as we can to get through 2 questions and then get through a closing. All right, Brother Maurice, I'm going to hand you the floor, sir, for your last question as well, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. So the question I have here is from Brother Mr. David Washington. As mayor, would you be willing to work with organizations that have a working relationship already with the community to bridge the gap with social and injustice issues?
All right, so I see Mr. Ross and then Dwayne Washington, sir, and then Marvin Sutton. 1 minute each in answering this question. Mr. Ross, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. As I stated earlier, the Unity Council demonstrated what inclusion can do for a community. When you put a group of people together, no matter what group they are, no matter what ethnicity they are, no matter what culture they are, and you do it in a way that creates the dialogue and enhances those relationships and understanding of each other, it is beneficial. So the short answer is absolutely yes. I would strongly encourage that type of dialogue to be started. I would strongly encourage all groups of cultural differences to reach out to the government, and the government needs to do better to reach out to them. So yes, include everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Mr. Washington, sir, 1 minute.
So thank you very much, Doctor. So yeah, of course, that's part of my strategy. I mean, I've been on the other side of that for a long time, having organizations that work with governments across the world. And whenever you have governments that are amicable to listen and to work with you, you literally can move the football down the field years earlier. So absolutely, we'll work with them, and it's part of the plan to do so.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I would. And here's the deal. 9 people on the council make decisions, create and implement policies for over 400,000 people. We've got to have more people at the table. We've got to listen and bring in those people with those ideas. So when we do create these public policies, we have a buy-in, and these people will know that at the end of the day, they were heard, they had a seat at the table, and it makes the city move in a better direction of inclusion and diversity. So absolutely.
Mr. Burke, sir, and I'm going to give you the first take on my last with the question that I asked, but you're next here now, but you'll get the first one on the very last question, sir. Whatever you're going to say in the next minute.
Yes, sir. And it's all good with me. I'm not offended either way. So I'm willing to work with anyone. I'm willing to work with anyone who is about making this city a better city. I think everyone's voice deserves to be heard. And if I'm elected mayor, I would do my due diligence to hear everybody out. So any existing organizations that have already been working hand in hand with the city, a conversation and a meeting and a sit down to hear their side and hear their take and hear their position on what they're trying to do. I would definitely be willing to do that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Glassby, 1 minute, sir.
Excuse me, I for a moment, it blanked out and I had to bring it back. Thank you again for the question. The thing we have to remember is that we serve at the pleasure of the people of Arlington. And it's imperative that every voice, every concern is shared with us. We need to do as much as possible as we can to identify different perspectives, different concerns, and assure that those are being shared so that we can come to decisions and put policies in place that have the best benefit for the maximum number of our citizens. Granted, whatever decision you make, there's going to be someone who doesn't like it, but at the same time, we should be in a position where they can at least live with it, and the majority of the people truly benefit from it. So I would welcome all the input possible from our community so that we can truly put together the best direction we should be going.
Very good, sir. Ms. Anthony, you have the last word here. 1 minute, ma'am.
Yes. When there is true social injustice, definitely we need to address it and come together as a group. Doesn't matter what group or party you're in. If you have an injustice served on you, then you should be heard. Your voice should be heard. But as long as it's done peacefully as well.
Very good, very good. And the last question here, Mr. Burke, I'll toss it out to you, give you the first option if you want it, is if you are elected mayor, well, it's a two-part question. Again, 1 minute. What do you foresee as the biggest challenge facing the city of Arlington in coming years? And if elected mayor, how would you address it? What do you foresee as the biggest challenge facing the city of Arlington? And if elected mayor, how would you address it? Mr. Burke, I'm going to let you go first, and then Mr. Ross. All righty, sir. Mr. Burke, the floor is yours.
I think the main thing would be the spending of our citizens' tax dollars to fund different things in this city. I read it in the comments. See a few people pose this question, but it's been one of my main concerns and one of the things that I'm running for, particularly, is to make sure that that never happens again. So that's the main thing, is to, number one, educate the people that have been misinformed on how their money has been spent, the people that have been lied to, pretty much, and to take a stance to make sure that that never happens again. I believe that as a hardworking American Arlington citizen, we should have a say-so in how our money is being spent, and we should have the truth be told to us. So I will make sure that I take a stand that that never happens again, and no one in this city is ever treated unfairly in such a way.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Ross.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. The most important thing facing us right now isn't taxes or the crime or any of those issues. The most important thing is protecting our community from this pandemic and keeping it open. We have got to stay safe while we come out of this pandemic. Our firefighters and our city has done a tremendous job in vaccinating people in this city, and we need to continue to vaccinate as many people as we possibly can and educate them. We have to keep our businesses open, however, as we do this, because we cannot afford any further economic loss, either with the city or, more importantly, our specific small business owners. So those are the most important things facing the next mayor of this city. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker will be Mr. Dwayne Washington.
Thank you. When we look at what impacts our citizens, we can look at top line and we can say crime. We could say schools. We could say that the different fees that are coming literally out of nowhere. But it all boils down to the exact same thing. When we talk about fiscal responsibility, when we talk about the debt of our city, I believe that is the number one thing. Once again, not sexy, but the number one thing that's going to squeeze everything up. When you look at that doubling and tripling over time, how is that to be paid back, right? And so that has an ability to put a squeeze on the individual people at home. That has ability to go over into crime because people don't have money. It has ability to lower the quality of our schools because kids are concerned at home and they become concerned at school. So going forward towards a debt-free city would be one of my initiatives going forward. And I think that in the next 15 to 20 years, if we don't take care of that, it's going to be something that impacts our city tremendously.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Anthony, 1 minute is yours, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm going to say definitely getting our businesses, people going out, exploding our economy. People are ready to get out and actually put money into our economy so we can grow. That's very important. We've been going through this pandemic for almost a year now, and I think that we're opening back up again. It's time that America gets back to work and that our businesses can succeed. And so again, the government has overstepped, and it's not to the government to decide how the businesses will open up and operate so that we can be successful.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Glassby and then Mr. Sutton, and then we're gonna open up for, I'm gonna give everyone 2 minutes to have a closing statement, and we're gonna go in reverse alphabetical order. This time we will start with Mr. Washington. You get the last say. Yes, sir. You get the first chance to go in to end us. So the next speaker with 1 minute is Mr. Glassby and then Mr. Sutton.
Thank you again, Dr. Shelton. Great question. The number one thing is no way you can get around it. We have to get this pandemic under control. I mean, it impacts everything. It impacts us economically. It impacts us socially. It impacts us spiritually. Our churches are wrestling with it. So we have to get it under control. And then we have to make sure that we jumpstart our economy and get us back on track. Keeping in mind that we need to make sure that we are making things available and open to those who are the most vulnerable. We cannot just take off and lose sight of the fact that we have many who are suffering and need additional assistance. So we need to do all we can to assure that everyone is able to partake of what we're doing in the way of opening up our economy and make sure that we are coming together as a community.
Very good, sir. Mr. Sutton, the floor is yours, sir. 1 minute.
Thank you. Imagine calling 911 and the network's down. Cybersecurity is going to be the #1 threat for most municipalities as well as local and state governments. We've got to get a grip on the attacks that are attacking our networks. And if we don't, our system will fail. We have to provide that public safety service that we deliver day in and day out, our neighborhood services. So we have to protect our network, and we'll collaborate with our county, state, and federal partners to have a comprehensive plan that will protect the network so we can deliver that public safety and so that your information is not compromised with our city.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, that reaches the end of the Q&A portion of this evening. And now, as I said a few minutes ago, I want to give you each a closing 2 minutes to make your case to the public about why we should vote for you. And we're going to go again in reverse alphabetical order. That means Dwayne Washington will go first, then Marvin Sutton, then Jim Ross, then Michael Glassby, Kelly Burke, and Donnie Anthony. All right. And so if I heard you correctly, I think I might have heard Pastor Washington earlier. Did I hear that? You're yes, sir. So Pastor Washington, the 2 minutes are yours, sir.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Dr. Shelton. Thank you to all the people who have spent their time here. Hopefully we've given you something from an ROI perspective for the time that you spent. Thank you to all of these other candidates. I've heard some great ideas. One of us is going to end up being the mayor of the city of Arlington, taking care of 402,000 people. And I'm excited to hear the great ideas, and whoever wins. hopefully will implement all the things that they've heard. I've made the case, hopefully you can hear my heart and you understand that I'm about families over facilities, period. I want to make sure that we can all live the dream together. There's some very specific things that I believe will help to accomplish that. And they all, for the most part, go down to how do we take care of individual families and allow them to be able to take care of everything else. And so I've talked about that throughout the evening. Hopefully you've heard that. So just remember, Washington for Arlington, live the dream, families over facilities.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Mr. Marvin Sutton.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shelton. It's been a wonderful evening, wonderful candidates, having a real discussion about real issues that affect our city. I just want your viewing audience to know that I'm fair, I'm open-minded. I look at data when it comes to making and creating public policies, but I want you to feel that you have a seat at the table when it comes to those policies that affect your public safety. When you want to decompress and take a walk in the park, that the parks are safe, that you have a good response when you call 911. The goal is to improve your quality of life, but also give you that ability to feel that you can embrace those policies. Imagine talking to a friend. That's how it should feel when you talk to a council member. A council member that's out front every day doing everything possible to improve the community, whether it's distributing meals, hot meals from Destiny Christian Center, whether it's participating in a food distribution with Tarrant County Food Bank or Arlington Charities, whether it's picking up trash in your neighborhood when no one else will. I want you to know you have an individual that spent 38 years of federal service, 8 years Air Force, 30 years as an air traffic controller, one of the few that worked doing 9/11 that secured the skies. You have someone that cares deeply about the community. And when you go vote, you remember my name is Marvin Sutton. I want you to feel that you can trust your local government. I want to reconnect you and reintroduce you to City Hall that serves you, the public. My name is Marvin Sutton. I'll be honored to have your vote. My website is electmarvinsutton.com. If you'd like to come on board to this grassroots movement, we're talking to folks every day, asking for advice and ideas that would create meaningful public policies that have a positive impact. And it's been a great pleasure with all the candidates, and thank you, NAACP, for this opportunity.
Jim Ross, sir, the floor is yours for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton, and thanks again to the Arlington NAACP for the invite and the opportunity to share our thoughts this evening. I want to go back to what I talked about in the opening comments. What do we look for in a leader? Integrity, the ability to create jobs, and the ability to keep us safe. I was the Marine, I am the Marine. I'm the only candidate that's ever run for any office in Arlington that was an Arlington police officer. I've been in the trenches of this city for nearly 40 years, working to make this city better. I have had the pleasure of receiving a number of endorsements since this campaign started. I've received the endorsements for the first time ever of all 4 police associations, including Amigos en Azul, the Hispanic Police Officer Association, and the African American Police Officer Association. The reason why I received their endorsement was because I asked and they understood who I was. I'm the only person who's ever run for city office that's asked the African American Police Officers Association for their support.
A big hat or something. A big hat.
It's your turn. Keep going, sir. You got your 2 minutes. You got about 30 seconds to go.
I am also supported and endorsed by the Arlington Firefighters Union. I am endorsed by the Arlington Board of Realtors. And today I received notice from the AFL-CIO that I've received their endorsement as well. We have those endorsements because these organizations recognize that I'm the person best equipped to lead this city. I'm the only candidate who's actually created jobs and made payroll for nearly 100 people. None of these other candidates have. I see Mr. Sutton shaking his head no, because he also received an endorsement from the AFL-CIO. He just didn't happen to mention it, but I wanted to clarify that I'm not lying. So thank you again for this. The AFL-CIO recognized us today, and I appreciate them as well. Thank you.
Pastor Glassby, sir, you have 2 minutes to deliver your closing case, sir.
All right, thank you again, Dr. Shelton, and thank the Arlington NAACP for assembling such a great environment for us to share ideas, for us to give you an opportunity to get some idea from us, what we would like to accomplish as mayor of the city. First of all, I'm a Vietnam vet. I've served my country. I've fought for my country. I have also served on the Arlington School Board. I've served there, making sure that our kids get a great education. I've worked on with the county. I've been a part of the Tarrant County Appraisal District, so I've served my county, and I have really been blessed to serve our city on the council, and latter part of it is Mayor Pro Tem of our city. I want to focus on assuring that our citizens get everything that they need, and that we truly take full advantage of every dollar that they are willing to invest in our city in taxes, delivering the services that they want so they can have the highest quality of life. I believe that we should continuously improve. As much as we're in a position now where we've been doing great things in the city, we need to continue to get better and better and better. And that would be my focus, to look at everything that we're doing to assure that what other steps we can take to make this the American dream city for each and every one of our citizens, so we can truly be inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Burke, your 2 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir. And again, I want to say thank you to the NAACP for this forum and for this inviting all the candidates out. I am truly grateful to be a part of it. Let me just say that as I hear everybody's accolades and all the wonderful things that they've done, the reason I'm running is because I'm running for the people of Arlington. I'm not part of the establishment. I'm not part of a system. I'm not part of a program. And I'm running to fight against it. Because God wants justice in all of his positions, including government. And if somebody's not standing for truth and justice, it doesn't matter how much stuff or how many people are behind them or backing them or giving them the sign. It's time out for that. We're tired of seeing the next politician pass the baton to the next person, and things don't change. It's time out for that. It's time for somebody that's real, that truly loves people, has a heart of God, and who cares about what really happens in this city, to stand up. And I don't think it's only me on this call that's doing that. I think others are here too. And we stand collectively against the establishment. And we come to say, you're not going to win this. We stand and we oppose you because we represent the people of Arlington. And the people of Arlington are sick and tired of seeing us being taken advantage of, misled, and lied to. And God is displeased with you. So I'm asking you to band with us and stand with us and join hands with us as we fight against the establishment, because we cannot let them win. We cannot let them take over the city anymore. The city belongs to us. My campaign slogan is giving Arlington back to the people. And if I'm elected, I plan to do just that. And if you don't elect me, the other person that's elected, if it's the right person, I'll stand behind them and fight with them as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Ms. Anthony, you will take us home this evening and have the last word in 2 minutes for making your case for why the voters should select you to be mayor of our great city.
Thank you guys so much for having me today. It's been a lovely, fun experience. I am running for the people of Arlington, Texas. I'm not running for myself. The mayor of Arlington, Texas makes $250 a month. So this isn't some kind of power grab or some kind of get rich thing. So I'm running for the people. But I do find very concerning is that Mr. Ross did bring up that Jeff Williams went to China to talk about doing things in our city. I don't trust China CCP because during the pandemic, when there was Black people who they said brought the COVID over there, they were kicked out of restaurants or kicked out of their home. So I think that's a terrible direction for our city to go into if those are the people we're looking for in leadership in our own city of Arlington. We have our own good people in America who can get this job done. And I'm here to represent them. I'm here to fight for them. And I really appreciate everyone for listening, but a vote for me is a vote for freedom. I'm Donnie Anthony, and thank you.
Thank you, Donnie. At this time, I'm going to hand the floor back to Mr. Damon Gardner. Appreciate once again that our Arlington chapter allows me to be a part of this important event. And I thank you all as candidates for your time, attention, and your insight in moving our city forward. Damon, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. And I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening for our candidate forum. Hope you'll join us next month. The next candidate forum will be scheduled for Monday, March 22nd, when we'll have the Arlington School Board. And